In this week's commentary, Jason Rosenbaum looks at Chuck Purgason's run for the U.S. Senate seat being vacated by Kit Bond. Purgason has a tough fight ahead of him against Roy Blunt, whose campaign is much better financed. Rather than focusing on Purgason's actual chance of winning, Rosenbaum looks at the big picture and the potential impact the Republicans' message may have on politics.
Even in a legislature with profoundly memorable characters, there is something about Senator Chuck Purgason that sticks out. Purgason is a conservative Republican senator hailing from Caulfield, an unincorporated hamlet in the sprawling metropolis that is Howell County. He made news last week when he announced in West Plains that he would seek Senator Kit Bond's Senate seat next year. Few people who handicap Missouri elections are giving Purgason much of a shot. He's running against U.S. Representative Roy Blunt, a Springfield Republican who's wrangled up the state's political establishment in his corner. Blunt's also got a perceived advantage in fundraising, an element that's crucial for any statewide campaign. But those realities don't necessarily make Purgason's candidacy less intriguing, or perhaps less significant. In a superficial sense, Purgason is known around the Capitol building for his attire. He often strolls around the Senate chambers wearing country western clothing, including his trademark Bolo tie. He also tends to sprinkle in folksy anecdotes and metaphors in speeches, something usually reserved for certain mid-Missouri radio commentators. But despite some idiosyncrasies, Purgason has made some significant legislative maneuvers in the past few years. Many of his prominent battles have pushed back against major governmental spending initiatives. Purgason, for instance, was the chief sponsor of legislation that lowered eligibility rates for the state's Medicaid program. He also filibustered a proposed ballot item that would have launched bonding for various capital improvement projects around the state. Some of his stands have gone against the grain of his party and popular opinion. Purgason's been a sharp critic of ethanol incentives, an effort generally supported by most Republican lawmakers. He was one of a handful of legislators who opposed an effort to require insurance companies to cover autism spectrum disorder. In examining so-called long shots, it may be more instructive to look at the longevity of the candidate's message as opposed to the odds of actually winning. Barry Goldwater, for example, got destroyed in the 1964 presidential election, but he managed to be the godfather of sorts to the conservative movement. There are also examples in local congressional races where candidates put forth an idea or proposal that became incorporated into a party's overall platform. It isn't out of the realm of possibility that Purgason's abhorrence of government spending could become more mainstream in political discourse. That's one of the arguments gumming up President Barack Obama's health care plan, and the federal government's propensity to expend funds could be more controversial in the next couple of decades, especially as Social Security and Medicare become bigger financial problems over time. It remains to be seen whether Purgason will have a substantial impact on Blunt's candidacy. He may be a big problem or a small bump in Blunt's road to battling Secretary of State Robin Carnahan. But the anti-spending crusade he's proposing may be even more lasting than any bolo tie fashion craze. I'm Jason Rosenbaum.
He's got a ranch with Stetson. He's a hip-shooting ex-oil king. Even talks like Buddy Epson, but he's sitting in the West Wing.
And that'll do it for this week's Talking Politics. Remember, podcasts of this show and all of our shows are available at KBIA.org. Thanks for listening. I'm Sarah Whitmire.
Countryer than by.